Hello, and welcome to the Poppedcast. It's episode 3, and I'm very happy to be here today. Got my usual, so I've got a clip that's really good. I've got a book, and I've got a documentary to talk about. Now, it's snowing outside here. Weather outside is frightful, but I don't have a fire because I'm in a new build, and they don't allow you to have fires in new builds. So I can't sing the song. But what I can do is talk about film. You might have noticed, if you care, that I've been a bit quieter on the old newsletter of late. Not as many articles. I don't. Yeah, it's just been. It's hard making history once. A lot of research, and I've just not really felt it. I don't know if it's because stuff going on in the world's a bit depressing. It's that time of year, and nights are getting longer, that sort of thing. I usually like that, but when it's come to my newsletter, I've just not had the oomph to, all the time. I've been quite busy as well, to put out the amount of work that I usually do. But I really enjoyed my last one, putting together that one about Withnail and I. And if you haven't had a look at that, do have a look. I haven't done a voiceover for it though, so maybe I'll go back and add that. So yeah, but I do really like doing this podcast because it's nice and chilled, and I don't know, I just think it's really good. Well, I think it's good. What do you think? So yeah, I just wanted to say sorry that I haven't released as many. Hope you haven't missed it too much. I'm I'm hoping to get back into it a bit. I've got a few ideas. I did think I should have done a Gladiator one, shouldn't I? History of Gladiator, but I've missed that boat. It's sailed, and I'm not going to see the second one yet. I'm going away. I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks, so hopefully go and watch it there if I can. I'm going with work. Don't want to show off too much. Anyway, let's let's get into it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is do the clip because it is very special. I think it's from 1971, and it's the saviour of cinema, Aunt Laura. So this clip sort of makes me joyous, and it sort of makes me want to cry. Really, this Aunt Laura is lovely, but also a little bit sad, because if you got to the bit where she's singing, and she talks about that she missed out on being a dancer. She wanted to be a dancer, and it didn't work out. I mean, brave for her to go on national television and sing. Not the best voice, but she was what, in her well, I don't know how old she was, but yeah, that was really sad. And the joy that she has talking about the cinema and everyone crying, and the fact that her whole family is part of it, I just think it's a lovely story. And the film itself, it's really nice to see because her nieces help her run the cinema. So she runs a cinema. Cinema's not as popular in the 70s. A lot of them are being turned into bingo halls at this time. But Aunt Laura is pushing on. And it's in Marsden in West Yorkshire. A little cinema, but she carries on doing family-based films. By a family, for the family. And it's just a really nice little clip. It reminds me of the cinema I used to go to in a way, Commodore in Aberystwyth, when she's in the little booth selling tickets, and the woman's like, "What's this film about?" "Well, this film's about this. You'll really like it." It's just really sweet, and just the whole thing sort of made me want to cry a bit. I want that kind of cinema in my life. But it talks about the fact that she's trying to keep it going, even though it's not as popular a thing to do. But yeah, it sort of loses its way talking about her wanting to be a dancer and then her singing that little number. I read in the comments, so this was done in 1971, and a few years later, I think it was 1975 or 1976, it closed. And then I just think of little Aunt Laura going, "Well, we tried our best." And that just makes me sad and happy as well. It's just a lovely, lovely clip, and speaks to the eccentric nature that Britain can be. It's the kind of clip you'd see on the One Show today. Maybe not as weird, but yeah, we've lost that kind of family-run cinemas. They're still out there, but there's not that many of them. But it's if you've got the time, do have a look. It's like 6 minutes long, but it's a lovely, lovely clip, and just all the details. I put the vinyl on, so they put a little. Or their nieces are in the booth changing all the film and stuff like that, and then in between they put in the vinyl player on for some music in the interlude. Just classic British cinema, and it's a nice little relic. So that's the clip. It's beautiful. Maybe we won't go so far as beautiful. Over-egg that pudding there. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is the book. So last month I did. God, I shouldn't have committed to this. One thing you need to know about me is I'm really bad at names. Julie Walters? No. Damn it. Completely forgotten. Hang on. I need to go to my own website now. Julie Walters is not the right answer at all. She's a comedian, well-loved comedian from Mamma Mia. Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews. What an idiot. Anyway, I'll leave that in. So last month I did that memoir, and so this time I wanted to do something a little bit different. And it's coming up to Christmas, and you might want a gift for that special someone. And if you do, this could be a good option. This is I Love Romcoms, and I Am a Feminist. And it's by Corrina Antrobus. It's a wonderful little book. It's kind of the kind of book that you would normally flick through now and again. But what I really like about it, so it's 100 rom-coms. So it's not just a list of rom-coms you should watch because you're a feminist. It actually gives you, for every rom-com, a reason why it is great as a feminist piece. So often with and it makes the point, often with rom-coms, they're seen as almost like going into stereotypes. And over the years that you should sort of neglect or forget those because they're anti-feminist. But actually they are feminist. And the very idea that you're lowering the perspective of a rom-com to something that's just for women and isn't any much higher, it's a lower art form than a drama, for example, or a standard comedy, is in itself quite a sexist approach. When the joy that these have, there's so many layers and so many things that men and women can take out for it, but especially women, it's there. And what it's trying to do is reclaim that and say, actually, these are fantastic films. They're not just rom-coms, and you shouldn't think lower of them. They're fantastic pieces of art in their own right, and they say something about women and the female condition, the female life. And it makes the case for that for every film that they talk about. And it's a brilliant book. A couple of ones. So the films I've seen, you kind of gravitate to those when you first open a book, right? So His Girl Friday, which it's from the year 1940. I watched that last year. But everyone has a title. So this rom-com, this is the rom-com that showed that she could have a career and a marriage. And then it makes the case for that. But also, hang on, let me find a note. The Apartment, which is one of my favorite films, I think. The rom-com that stuck it to the man. So it sort of makes the case that these were showing women at that time. So The Apartment was made in 1960. It's positive portrayals of women, basically. And making the case for that. And I just think it's a fantastic book. And a lot of these I haven't seen. So it's given me a bit of a list of things to go and watch. Another one is When Harry Met Sally. The rom-com that changed the way we talked about orgasms, of course, in the Katz's Deli scene. So it's not just saying that these are... It's making the case that rom-coms are not to be sniffed at. and they've all got something to say, and they're just great films. Like I said at the beginning, so it's a fantastic book and a great one for Christmas, I'd say. I'm definitely going to keep it on my shelf, and as I say, it's a great way to, if you need something to watch, have a look at this. There's 100 of them, a really good read, so I recommend that. And as I say, it is coming up to Christmas, and I saw a great newsletter from Story Has It, which is another similar newsletter to mine, and they've done a gift list of books and things. So I will put a link to that in the newsletter, and you can have a look at it. For other books, loads of memoirs, and if you want to buy me any, that is great. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is a documentary, and this documentary is on Disney Plus. I just watched it last night, so it's fresh on my mind. It's called Music by John Williams. Music by John Williams is just that. It's a documentary about the man behind the maestro, as it says. And it goes through the life of John Williams through his music. So pretty much all of his films, his influences, how he came to make those scores and his thoughts behind music. And it's from that perspective, it's a really fascinating documentary. Now, the thing about John Williams is just the breadth of music that he's made. It's just ridiculous. At one point, they go through the different music that he's made that you wouldn't have thought of. I didn't know he did the Olympic theme. You know, the one that goes that one. I just thought like a Greek god had made it or something. It's John Williams. Do you know when you go to Italy, if you've ever been to Italy, or go to Rome, or an amazing city, an old city, and every corner you go around, you're like, oh, there's something else beautiful. You just almost get sick of how beautiful it is. It's kind of how I feel about John Williams. Every score, every film he's done is just amazing. You're like, God, have a break. Come off it, mate. It's astounding. So just from the music alone, it's worth a listen. It's a fantastic, what a fantastic career he's had. And there's a few bits that really stood out that I found nice, quite moving. One thing I didn't know, he started as a jazz musician. So his father was a drummer. His mother was in the music industry. I can't remember. I didn't write that down. But he talked a lot about his influence from his father. So those jazz influences come in. You know the thing in Star Wars, the jazz band. That, and Catch Me If You Can, the theme from that is very jazzy. But there's one of the first moments that caught my eye was when George Lucas was talking about the first time that he was in the studio when he heard the Star Wars theme. And you could see him, he's welling up, he was about to cry when he first heard it, because when he obviously filmed it, he didn't know what it was going to sound like. And one thing he said was John Williams was very adaptive. He'd say, okay, that's maybe not working, can we try this? And John Williams would go back and write it. But thinking about it, that music changed George Lucas's life. Without the Star Wars music, what is Star Wars? And George Lucas even said that himself. It's half the movie. And you really get a sense of that for watching this film. When they take the music off the films, it's completely different. And one of them said, he brings the audience in to the film. And especially with Star Wars, when that first intro comes in, it's a punch in the face. So imagine what George Lucas would have felt when he first heard that. He must have thought, right, well, this is my life changed. I've made this film as best I can, and John Williams has come in and completely lifted it. It's incredible. And then he's talking about... there was 1 minute bit that he was talking about how the music came together when he was doing Encounters of the Third Kind. Is that what it's called? Yeah, that's what it's called, right? Anyway, you know the one I meant. Close Encounters. That's it. Told you I was bad with names. But he was talking through the 5 notes, so duh, 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 duh. And that was interesting because he really went the science behind how that works. Because if he changed it to duh, 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 as an example, it changes your perception of that feeling. They talk about how he, I don't want to say too much, but how he comes about his music. And there's the idea of primal sounds, that ancestral instinct that we have when you hear sounds, and that sounds can be threatening if they're like low and boomy, or sounds can give you comfort, like in trees and things like that. So that's where he's working from, and you can kind of see that when you watch this documentary of where he's coming from when he's building these soundtracks. But when he's talking about Close Encounters, that's a really interesting bit where he really goes into the nitty gritty of what makes a tune and how that affects an audience. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. In terms of like his own life, if that's what you're after, they touch on it a bit, but it's really not about that. It's more of a best of. So we'll go through all the different films, different themes, and especially from his music, how that comes about and things like that. So definitely worth it. As I say, it's called Music by John Williams. It's on Disney Plus, released a couple of weeks ago. But it's a really fascinating thing if you're into music. And I mean, who doesn't like a John Williams soundtrack? If you don't, then you can probably unsubscribe. Don't. Please don't. So yeah, I enjoyed it for that side. From the actual life side, not so much, but that's not what we're here for. All right, so those are the 3 things. Do go and watch that clip. It's only 6 minutes, and if you have time over the next month, it's getting up to Christmas. It's music by John Williams is lovely, and then you've got the book to buy for your friends and family. There you have it. That's the quick podcast. They're usually quick, aren't they? If I had someone on, they could tell me their opinion, but I'm just telling you mine. Sorry about that. Hope you enjoyed it. Next month, more of the same. Different book, obviously, different clips. So make sure you tune in, subscribe, share with anybody that you think might be interested in this. And yeah, have a great month. Thanks for listening. See you next time.